I first came across this story as something that felt almost routine. Jorge Martin, a MotoGP world champion, reportedly finalizing a 2-year deal with Yamaha. On the surface, it sounded like just another major move in a rider market that never really stands still. But the deeper I went into the details, the clearer it became that this wasn't simply about a rider changing colors. This was a story about power, trust, and the subtle but significant shift in MotoGP's future direction. I've always felt that the biggest MotoGP stories rarely exist in isolation. They're usually the product of a long chain of decisions, small misjudgments that add up, and moments where a rider realizes that their future no longer lies where they once believed it did. Jorge Martin's situation fits that pattern perfectly. To understand why Yamaha pushed so hard for him, and why Martin seems prepared to take such a substantial gamble, I have to step back and look at how we got here. When Jorge Martin became MotoGP world champion, the narrative around him felt complete. He was fast, aggressive, and finally mentally settled. That title wasn't an accident or a lucky break. It was the result of a carefully built career within Ducati's system, refined through Pramac and backed by a structure designed to turn speed into championships. And yet, almost immediately after reaching the summit, his career path became uncertain. For me, that's where this story truly begins. Martin's decision to leave the Ducati ecosystem and join Aprilia initially looked bold, even logical. He wanted to be the center of a project rather than one elite rider among many. He wanted a team that would shape its future around him. But even then, there was a detail that felt quietly revealing. The exit clause written into his contract wasn't just legal caution. It was a signal. It suggested that Martin himself wasn't fully convinced this project would deliver what he needed. Then came the injuries. 2 operations, lost test time, and a disrupted adaptation phase. Whenever a rider loses crucial early mileage on a new bike, I know the consequences can be severe. MotoGP isn't just about raw ability. It's about rhythm and momentum. And momentum was exactly what slipped away from Martin during his time with Aprilia. Not necessarily through fault, but through a convergence of unfortunate circumstances. From there, tension became inevitable. Aprilia saw the contract as a medium-term commitment that had to be honored. Martin saw it as a conditional agreement, one he was entitled to walk away from if the reality failed to match the original promise. From the outside, it looked like a straightforward contractual dispute. To me, it felt like something deeper, a clash between 2 philosophies about how a modern MotoGP career should be managed. Once Martin began openly signaling his desire to leave, it was clear the relationship had reached a point of no return. In MotoGP, trust between rider and manufacturer is fundamental. Once that trust erodes, even strong results often aren't enough to save a project. And it was precisely at that moment that Yamaha entered the picture. This Yamaha is not the Yamaha of a decade ago. They are no longer automatically associated with wins and championships. Instead, they are a major manufacturer searching for direction, identity, and a rider who can anchor a long-term rebuild. With Fabio Quartararo's departure looming, the message became unmistakable. Yamaha needed a new focal point, and they needed it urgently. When I saw Jorge Martin's name linked so strongly with Yamaha, the logic was obvious. This wasn't just about lap time. It was about credibility. Signing a reigning world champion is a political statement within the MotoGP paddock. It tells rivals, sponsors, and engineers that Yamaha still matters, that they are prepared to reset and rebuild if that's what it takes. From Martin's perspective, though, the risk is enormous. This would be his 3rd different bike in 4 seasons. Even for a world champion, that's far from ideal. Each manufacturer has its own philosophy, its own technical language, and its own demands on a rider's instincts. Adaptation isn't merely about speed, it's about whether a rider can truly integrate with a machine and influence its development. I see this as a high-stakes wager on both sides. Yamaha are betting that Martin is adaptable enough, intelligent enough to accelerate their rebuilding process. Martin is betting that Yamaha can offer him a more stable political and structural environment than the one he's leaving behind. This isn't a short-term play. It's a decision that could define the rest of his career. What fascinates me most is the domino effect this move creates. Once Yamaha commit to Martin, the entire rider market shifts. Aprilia must rethink their future. Honda secure Quartararo. Ducati reassessed their internal priorities. This isn't simply one rider moving teams, it's the quiet rebalancing of power across MotoGP. There's also the weight of expectation that comes with this move. Martin won't arrive at Yamaha as an underdog, he'll arrive as a world champion. Every result outside the podium will be questioned. Every technical comment will be interpreted as a judgment on the project itself. In a team rebuilding from the ground up, that kind of pressure can either become fuel or a crushing burden. And yet, that's exactly where I see the potential for something special. If Martin succeeds at Yamaha, the story will be extraordinary. A rider who lost his footing, reclaimed his sense of purpose, and helped return a historic manufacturer to competitiveness. Stories like that are rare in modern MotoGP, and perhaps that rarity is precisely why Yamaha are willing to take this risk. In the end, I don't see this deal as the conclusion of Jorge Martin's contract saga, but as the beginning of a far more decisive chapter. Modern MotoGP isn't just about who's fastest on Sunday afternoon. It's about who made the right decisions 2 or 3 years earlier. And in that context, Martin's move to Yamaha could prove to be one of the defining choices of this era. When the lights go out at the start of the 2027 season, I'm certain of one thing. The outcome won't just shape Jorge Martin's place in the standings. It will shape how we understand courage, patience, and risk at the very highest level of motorcycle racing.